I think that new construction of rental units is really going to stop because, number one, the cost of the materials has gone way up. The labor, it's hard to find the workers. And so you can't even build these homes anymore at a price that anybody can afford to pay. So I think, it's the stock that's here that we're going to have to deal with. And, the population is growing. And if the housing stock is not, then that's a problem. But if you look at what the government did during the pandemic, they basically said nobody has to pay their rent. So the government said that we don't give a damn about landlords, right? And they set a new precedent. Anytime there's an emergency, we just, say that tenants don't have to pay their rents. And so landlords now have to bake this in to the rents that they charge when times are good, because they know as soon as things get bad, there'll be another moratorium. So the landlords now have to raise their rents to compensate for the rent they know they're going to lose the next time the government does this. The government has made owning rental properties much riskier because your cash flow is in jeopardy if the government decides they're going to pass a moratorium. And I think what's going to happen, too, is a lot of landlords are going to say, I don't even want to be a landlord anymore. It's too risky. And they're going to take the properties off the market. Maybe they'll sell them. But I think the supply of rental housing is going to go down, which is going to put even more upward pressure on rents.
Well, and as we've heard this term thrown around a lot, that we're becoming a renter nation. And as supply goes down in rent and pushes the price up, what do you see happening to people?
Well, people are going to ultimately have to, take roommates, so that they can reduce their rent by sharing their apartment or their house. I think some people are going to rent out rooms. You can maybe your kids have grown up. They're, although some of the kids are going to come home and live with the parents, or some of the parents might have to go back and live with their grown kids. But you're going to have multiple families, under one roof. That's how people will get by, because I think that new construction of rental units is really going to stop. Because number one, the cost of the materials has gone way up. And the labor, it's hard to find the workers.
Absolutely.
And so you can't even build these homes anymore at a price that anybody can afford to pay. So I think, it's the stock that's here that we're going to have to deal with. And, the population is growing. And if the housing stock is not, then that's a problem.
Peter, I had one day a conversation with a financial investor. And the conversation was about, my argument was, listen, the more the government prints, the weaker the dollar is going to be. And his argument was like, no. The dollar will always be strong. Look at the demands around the world for the U.S. currency. And I was like, it can be. And I said, I'm going to prove it by talking to someone to get a different perspective.
Well, there used to be demand for dollars to buy treasuries. Well, nobody wants treasuries now, not even the Chinese. But people have want dollars to buy tech stocks in the U.S., to buy Apple or to buy, Microsoft or a lot of these other high-flying names that are much more expensive than the ones I just mentioned. A lot of them, even the meme stocks, the COVID stay-at-home stocks. But, the bubble in those stocks is popping. Look at Peloton today, down 35%, bid up on a fantasy. I think the appetite for overpriced U.S. growth stocks is going to fade. And then what does anybody need dollars for? We have the biggest trade deficits in history right now. So we're flooding the world with dollars that they don't need to buy our products. We're buying their products. So to say that there's always going to be demand for dollars, no matter how many we print, is very naive. I used to talk to people about the housing bubble, 2004, 5, 6, when I was talking about housing prices collapsing, and people would say, no, it's not going to go down. There's not enough supply. Nobody wants to sell. And I said, yeah, nobody wants to sell because the houses keep going up. But once the housing prices start to fall, all these houses that are not on the market, a lot of them are going to get listed. And the supply is going to swell. So just because we've had a shortage doesn't mean we can't have a surplus. And, we're going to have a surplus of dollars, a glut of dollars, because people are not going to want them anymore. And we're going to keep on adding more and more to a supply in a saturated market. And, what do you need them for? You need currencies to buy the products that the countries export. But we have a $1 trillion a year deficit in our balance of payments. So we're giving the world a lot more dollars than they need. And eventually the bottom drops out of the market because they start selling the dollars. Who's going to buy them? Nobody needs them.
Yeah, well, we certainly noticed that with China now that they are not buying as much as they used to.
No, they're selling. They're like gradually winding down their portfolio. I don't know why they're not moving even faster. But obviously, they're increasing their holdings of other assets, probably gold, but also other currencies. And so the percentage that dollars represent of their reserves is going down faster than the reserves themselves.
So you touched on trade deficit, and that's something that I've sort of been keeping my eye on because I think it's not being talked about enough. And you spoke to, that we had the highest all-time trade deficit very recently.
Yeah, it's not being talked about at all. The only time the trade deficit was an issue was in the 2016 presidential election because Donald Trump correctly made it an issue. He criticized the Obama economy for record trade deficits, and we were losing on trade, and we were supposed to elect Donald Trump to win on trade. He was going to turn the situation around and rebuild our industrial base. Well, it turned out that was just a lie because Trump didn't actually do anything, right? Trump didn't do anything to turn the economy around. He just doubled down on the failed policies that he inherited from Obama and Bush. So the trade deficits actually went up under Trump, not down. So we lost even bigger on trade with Trump than we did with Obama. But now that the baton has been passed to Biden, the trade deficits have shattered all the records. And so we're losing even worse. But at least we talked about it, in 2015, 2016. We don't talk about it at all now. I mean, we used to talk about the trade deficit during the 1980s. People recognize it as a problem. In fact, a lot of people blame the 87 stock market crash on the big trade deficit. But even though the deficits are much bigger now than they were back then, no one cares about them. And again, it's because they've been bad for so long without any crisis that we've been lulled into a false sense of security that they no longer matter. Well, they matter. It's just that the markets don't care about it yet. But when they finally care, it's going to matter more than ever.
Well, and so that's sort of my next question is, people, because it's been bad for so long, it's the same with the money printing, right? It's been that way for so long without a crisis. But, I think there's overall a sense that a lot of these are actually coming to a head. And so what do you see the real consequences of this trade deficit being?
Well, again, it's going to be a dollar crisis. I mean, the trade deficit represents the underlying weakness of the U.S. economy.
Yeah.
It shows that we're living beyond our means because we don't have the capacity to produce these goods ourselves. So the world is supplying us with the stuff we can't produce. And how are we paying for all this stuff? Well, we're not really paying. We're just printing money and giving it to our trading partners. But at some point, the trading partners are going to want something real. They don't want paper. They want the same kinds of products that Americans want. And eventually they're going to stop selling us their products and they're going to consume those products themselves. So they'll keep their stuff and we're going to get stuck with our paper. But we're going to have all this paper, all this money, but nothing to buy. And so the prices will go way up as the dollar comes crashing down.
Before we continue, help us clicking that YouTube like button and subscribe now to our channel. This shows the algorithm that you valued this information. And it helps us spread that message. Sharing is caring. And now, let's continue.
Do you want to know one thing about crypto? I made over 3,000% in profit in a few weeks. Fact is, the traditional financial system, the traditional money system makes you poor, not rich. If you want to earn $500,000, $1 million, you have to wait until you're 50, 60, 70 in the traditional financial system, and you probably will still be broke. And you will be old. This is not a sexy combination, as you can imagine. But the question is, how can you start in crypto and make these profits? Where to invest? Where to start? My name is Gunnar and I'm from Germany, as you can hear, and things are a little bit different in Germany. More about that later on. Fact is, there are lots of different cryptocurrencies. It's a gigantic universe where beginners and professionals get easily lost. But there is light at the end of the tunnel. There are 7 key steps you need to follow to become successful in this market. You have to know them, and if you fail one of them, it's literally impossible to succeed in this market. Just an example, one of the key points is your exchange, and one of the biggest are, for example, Binance and Coinbase. These are trusted and well-established exchanges, but, and this is a big but, you won't find the super profitable coins on those exchanges. The unknown super profitable coins that get gigantic profits are not traded on those kind of exchanges. They are traded on much smaller insider platforms that are barely known. And I can tell you what those super secret exchanges are and why they are so profitable. And another super important thing are the right information sources. The point is, the internet is gigantic. There are hundreds and hundreds of YouTube channels, blogs, pages, and much more. And there are also market makers and influencers. For example, Elon Musk, he is not a crypto guy, but the moment he recommended Dogecoin, it went through the roof, to the moon, so to say. But why did he recommend it? Where did he hear it from? He didn't hear it from newspapers. And believe me, he is listening to someone. But you have to know who, and you have to react before he is reacting. This is really important. And these are only 2 of the 7 steps you have to follow in order to be successful in crypto. And if you want to know all of these steps in much more detail, and if you want to have a comprehensive checklist, here's what you should do. There is a link below this video. Click on this link and you will get the opportunity to subscribe to my channel. Click on the link and you will see a video where I explain the next steps. So see you soon. Click on the link now. I'll see you there.